All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Economic Development Commission work session on the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. I'm Chris Kaslimas, Director of the Economic Development Department. Tonight, Lisa Creason, our Vice Chair, will be running the meeting because our Chair, Elizabeth, is on the line, and you need to be present to chair the meeting. So Lisa's graciously accepted that role tonight. So I'll turn it over to you, Lisa.
Well, then I will call the meeting to order.
Should we do a roll call quickly, so everybody knows who's online? We may well start here with the room.
I'm Gerald Meyerman.
Lisa Colavito Creason, Business Consultant for Small Business Development Center and Vice Chair.
Laura Clark.
And online, we have maybe because, say, I can't see who's on.
Elizabeth Torgerson.
Phil Langley. John Barr.
Tristan Marino. Oh, okay.
Tom Sanders.
That was Tom Sanders.
Tom Sanders and Barbara Ives, right?
Oh, Barbara.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Just a couple of quick announcements, just kind of things that are going on in our world. I'll start off with and these don't necessarily relate to things we've been working on, but just kind of general announcements. We have a regional agricultural center that we're going to be building, and we have a RFP out for an engineer to help us determine what exactly the cost will be to build that facility. So we've been kind of back and forth. We got over $1 million grant from SMATIC to put that up, but so far our preliminary costs were a little bit high, so we want to get a true cost of what that would be to put it up. So we're hiring an engineering firm to give us some true costs. The North County Farmers Market is moving from its present location in the library of the Charlotte Hall Library, to its own site. I think it's a 12-acre site, about a half mile away. And we did a groundbreaking for that probably about 3 weeks ago, so we're excited about that. The Innovation District at the airport, as you know, we did a master plan for that last year. We now have an RFP out for a branding consultant. So we want to have a company come in and give us a logo and a brand and a look for signage. We also plan on putting up a monument sign on 235 with some other funding that we have. So we're excited about that. As you know, we've been in the grant business. I think we've reviewed, and I'm sure Kelly has the exact number, but over 500 grants our team has reviewed. Those are for small businesses, for restaurants, for hotels, for nonprofit agencies. So I think we did 302 grants to small businesses and restaurants.
Yes.
Yep. And maybe a much smaller number to hotels. Was it
13?
13. So we've kind of had a little bit of a break, and they don't want to let us rest too much, so the state's now providing more money for us for restaurants, hotels, and might be something else. I don't know the details, but roughly we're getting another $600,000 in rough terms. So that money we'll have to set up a new online portal for that for applications, and we'll probably start doing that, I'm guessing, in 3 weeks or so. So
Is that available to churches?
We haven't gotten the full parameters yet.
Okay.
It's specifically to restaurants, we know, and to hotels, and there's some other categories. They mentioned in the announcement letter also something for minority-owned businesses. I don't remember seeing anything about nonprofits or churches for that group. Churches were allowed in the initial CARES Act money we got, the original, yep.
Okay.
And
Allowed in PPPs.
yep. And last announcement is our California Farmers Market that's in the BAE parking lot opens May 1st. So the homegrown market down south, the Red Barn, is already open. California opens May 1st. And is the North County Farmers Market open?
No, not yet. They haven't set a date to open yet this season.
Okay, great. All right, so that's all for announcements. Third item is the EDC structure for updating the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And Kelly, can you put up the other document? Thank you. So we worked with Elizabeth, our chair, a little bit on this, and this is kind of a structure moving forward. I will mention, and we can talk about this afterwards, that the idea is for us to have some working committees. You guys know about that. We're going to have 3 working committees. But also, I had asked in my budget for economic development that we get a consultant on board. I requested $35,000. The commissioners approved that yesterday. It's not a final approval because this is the first really meeting of operating budgets for departments was yesterday. So the budget goes until they'll finalize it in June, but at this point, they most likely won't take it out. So we pretty much have $35,000 to hire a consultant. So we'll talk a little bit about the scope of that work. So starting off on this document, you'll see that we've listed 5 economic development priorities. So these are priorities that we've identified for what we're really going to try to focus on in the next year or so. First one, and you're all familiar with these, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but the first one is the Airport Innovation District Master Plan implementation. As I mentioned, we had an Innovation District Master Plan completed by a consultant called Torti Gallis, a great document. And now we need to continue that implementation, continue to build out the airport area. We do have some projects ongoing now. We have a renovation of the airport terminal. The terminal is a county-owned building, and we're doing some upgrades there. We're going to make, if you've been in there ever, you know that it's set up like it's a regular passenger terminal, has a baggage area, and has car rental things, and that's never been used, never will be used. So we're changing that. We're making some office space for that we can lease out. We're also making an eating area, so an area for food service. So we're going to have someone come in there, and we're building out a full commercial kitchen. There's going to be a pilot's lounge, which we're one of the few regional airports that does not have a pilot's lounge. So pilots always, when they fly in, they want some place to hang out, and they want to grab a hamburger or something, so that'll be good. And there'll be a little area for them to sit and watch planes and watch the news on TV and stuff. So that's happening. The other thing is that we're still preparing our, the county owns 35 acres on the west end. We're in the process of hiring an on-call engineering company to help us get that land ready. So we have moved some utilities there, but the land is still not really ready yet. Second item is the Sustainable Communities Lexington Park Initiative. Again, we talked about this quite a bit. We have this designation. It's a federal designation that we get through the state. This opens up different programs and grants for us, things such as a facade program. We can put together a business association. When we put our application together for Sustainable Communities, we listed pages and pages of initiatives and programs that we want to implement, and we had a wide coalition of people working with us on this, private sector. Tom Watts was working with us. He was a former EDC member. We had the Housing Authority. We had the CDC, other players. And we came together and came up with quite a few good recommendations. So we're going to start to implement those recommendations. Third is strengthen Pax River's tie to the local economy. As you know, Pax River is our largest and most important employer. We want to make sure that they're really hooked in. I think sometimes they do their own thing and we do our own thing, and we're not connected the way we need to be, so we want to make sure we're understanding what their work program is and what their needs are, and we're meeting their needs and listening to them, and we can also talk to them about our needs and how they can help us. We'd like to have them to be a part of the Innovation District. Right now, they're not really a solid component, but they have an interest in being at the airport, so we're looking into that. Workforce development is kind of probably the term we heard the most last year. We heard it from companies, we heard it from the Tri-County Council, we heard it from every agency. Workforce is a challenge from the base also. Not just here, but pretty much everywhere around the country. Unemployment, especially before COVID, for professional people was fairly low. There's a lot of competition for talent. Getting people to come down to St. Mary's County is a little difficult. We're kind of unknown still. And many young people who do come down here feel there's not enough to do, not enough engagement. So sometimes if we can lure them down here with a job, they end up leaving because they don't think the quality of life is here. We think that's great quality of life, so part of our job is to communicate the quality of life and to get them hooked into different networks, meeting other people. I know if you're a young man and you get a girlfriend down here, you're more likely to stay, and vice versa if a female and you can find a boyfriend. So getting people connected. We're not a dating service. I don't want to go too far down that road, but just different connections. St. Mary's Young Professionals, led by Christina Johansson and Destiny Allen from our staff. Their sole purpose is to connect professionals, so we're big supporters of that. And there's some other things we work on. Finally, diversification and expansion of the local ag economy. So we have an ag and seafood division. I talked about the farmers markets. I talked about the regional ag center. Land preservation is huge for us. I think we have 26,000 acres preserved through our ag and seafood division. They're very aggressive. We get money through the Navy if it's around the base. We have 2 rural legacy areas, and it's a very robust program. It really helps preserve our character and our natural rural character. If it's around the base, they like it that we're taking land out of development because obviously they're flying and they don't want to, if there's an accident, they'd rather run into a cornfield and not a bunch of people. So it's good for them, good for us. And that's why they contribute money. Any questions about those 5 priorities that we've briefly talked about? Questions or comments?
Phil Langley has a question online.
Go ahead, Phil.
Chris, I don't actually have a question, but
We can't hear
honestly,
him.
I kind of just wanted to give a shout out to some of your team working with EDC, especially on the Forest Ag Seafood, to Donna, Lisa, and Sue. You have a great team there, and they do a terrific job. And, I'm not sure everybody sees what happens behind the scenes with them, but they're great for the community.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Phil. Yeah, that's a great team. They've been working in the county for a long time, Donna and Sue and Lisa, and they know every farmer. They know what's going on. And they meet and talk to farmers, people that own land or in agritourism and own farmland every day. I mean, they're working with people every day to help them through the processes, help them get grants, help them establish wineries, whatever they're doing. They know all the players, and they're very, very helpful, and they work hard. And so I appreciate the comment, Phil. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Elizabeth has a comment.
Yes. 2 more, actually. 2 in 1. To add on to what Chris was saying when it comes to...
We're a little hard to hear. I don't know if we can turn the volume up, Elizabeth.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a way to do that.
Do you have the volume on the phone all the way up?
It's Amy back there.
Let me check.
Amy, can you turn the volume up? Is that possible?
I'm afraid it's on the size of the...
It's what?
Is that better?
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay. Chris, to add on to what you were saying, I know that one of the focuses that we highlighted within the sustainable communities or sustainable community for Lexington Park was working with existing community organizations such as, the Community Development Corporation and Vicky Volk, the neighborhood organizations, to really build upon and coordinate any current efforts. Also, when it comes to agriculture, I'm sure you also remember that we discussed preserving the current farms and farm operations, aquaculture that exists within the county, and making sure that we do have a net gain instead of putting together all of our gains only to come up short because of losses that happened in a process that we weren't aware of.
We're working on the volume. You're a little bit hard to hear.
Okay.
There you are.
That's better.
Better, yeah.
Thank you, Amy. So I heard you say that for sustainable communities, make sure we're collaborating with other agencies such as the Community Development Corporation. As I mentioned, they were part of putting the plan together. We definitely will collaborate with the different partners, Housing Authority for sure, private sector, businesses. And can you repeat your comment about ag? I know where you say expand and whatever your comment was.
To preserve the existing farms and aquaculture infrastructure that exists and organizations that exist within the county to ensure a overall net gain for our efforts.
Very good. Right. So that is important to preserve what we have, and that's part of what the land preservation programs do. They provide funding, actual cash, to landowners that put their farms in perpetual easements, and they get to keep their farm. They can't develop on it. There's restrictions, obviously, but in exchange for that, they do get some cash through the program.
Does that include aquaculture?
No, I mean, the land preservation is only for the land.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, but for just for the local agricultural economy, is aquaculture included in that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, oyster farming, I mean, it's been hit. I mean, Mr. Merriman knows this because he lives close by and next door to an oyster farmer. It's been hit really, really hard during COVID. Oyster farmers sell their oysters to restaurants in most cases, and restaurants haven't been open or been partially open, so sales are down. So I don't know, what were the prices of oysters before and what are they now from your recent experience?
I think just before COVID came along, the prices were about 70 cents an oyster. You know, I don't know what it is per bushel, but now I think it's down to something like 28 cents, if you can give them away. You know. But but a lot of the aquaculture producers, of course, are worried that the cocktail size is the size that they can market. You know, not the larger ones. So they're very quickly growing out of that market.
Yeah, okay.
So you see specials, but certainly in the immediate region where I live, I know that they put about 5 million oysters on the market in 2019. You know, and about 100,000 last year. So that's a huge.
So if you're on the phone, please mute your phone if you're not speaking. We can hear some background noise. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure,
Two things. One is there a map available that shows what lands are reserved?
Yes, absolutely. Is that on our website? Well, it's actually on this county GIS, right?
We're actually working to put it on the county GIS, so it'll be a layer probably in the next 30 days.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the second one was about moving the farmers market. Are you planning to put signs up indicating where it is?
Yes. I mean,
I send quite a few people in that direction, and I get phone calls saying, where is it? There's nobody here.
yeah, well, it's
Not open yet, of course, but
I mean, the North County one's still at the library parking lot. And then once it opens again for the season. But the new one's going to be off of the road a little bit, off of Route 5 a little bit.
Is it on 236?
It's on Thompson's Corner Road, yep.
6.
But the state will actually put signs, farmers markets, the state will put signs on the road. We we'll be able to put some extra signs, making sure people know. It's a pretty big site. We're going to have an area that's for outdoor vending. So it's mostly Amish farmers, not all, but almost all Amish Mennonite farmers. They'll be able to pull up their buggies and their horses and be able to set up. So it's kind of a U-shaped thing, and they pull in the back and they can set up outside. Then we have an enclosed building, a value-added building, where meats and cheeses and wines will be sold within that building. And there's room for additional buildings too. So it's going to be nice, very nice. So we anticipate, there'll be hopefully there'll be some grassy areas, some picnic tables. There's the big thing. One of the big things for me is there's a connection to the 3-notch trail. So as you're riding your bike up and down, you can peel off, and you're going to go through the woods a little bit. There's going to be a raised trail.
And it's regional too.
Regional, yep. Yeah, I mean, that farmer's market
County, that was the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that farmer's market gets people from Northern Virginia, from D.C., people come down.
Yeah.
So that's good. We're excited about it. Any other comments or questions about the 5 priorities we have for DED?
I already wrote some comments before, which I think were distributed. But obviously, those are details. They fall within the mandates of these different ones. I was interested in hearing you say that the terminal will never be used for passengers, because certainly the airline board is looking at regional operators coming in now that the running way has been extended.
Yeah.
And there are 50,000 or so trips per year starting in this county.
Right.
So certainly not a regional flight to Washington, but perhaps to Philadelphia or to Georgia.
Yeah.
But, it's something that the airport board should probably be involved in that discussion.
Right, and that's a good point. Mine was a little bit of hyperbole, a little overstatement there. I think in the near term, there's no commuter airline that wants to work out of there. But down the road, I mean, certainly to go from our market to another smaller market, saving time, it's a possibility. I've been in several discussions where that's been discussed, and some people think that's a good idea. So Mr. Merriman's on the Airport Advisory Board, right?
Right?
Yep. All right, so moving on to the approach for the SEDS update. So we talked about having 3 working committees. So again, we worked a little bit with Elizabeth to come up with these 3 areas. The idea is to have less than 8 members, because 8 is a quorum for us, because we have 14 members. So the meetings, in terms of whether they can be virtual or not, we're still trying to determine whether I think they might. I'm not sure if they can be virtual or not, but I know we need to have less than a quorum. And the 3 committees are the Document Review Committee, the Economic Resilience Committee, and the New Initiatives/Projects Committee. Document Review is kind of going through the existing SEDS document to look at the findings and recommendations, make sure they're still valid, suggest revisions where necessary. Also kind of identifying where additional research would be needed. Second committee is the Economic Resilience Committee. This deals directly with COVID. What's the post-COVID economy going to look like? How does our SEDS need to change, given that people are changing some of their work habits, especially with telework and those types of things? Third one is New Initiatives and Projects Committee. This is asking the committee to look at if we can enhance our SEDS with new projects or sections aside from the resiliency one. Committee will address the question, is new material needed to properly inform a 5-year work plan for DED given the 5 established priorities? So that's the third committee. And as I mentioned, we do have a consultant that we plan on bringing on board. It's not, $35,000 is not a lot of money, so they're not going to write the SEDS for us for $35,000. But they can certainly guide us. We may have them, and we can talk about it a little bit, we may have them focus a little bit more on the economic resilience, kind of the future given COVID and the changes. I mentioned Mr. Merriman, that he's on another board because we want to make sure we connect to other boards and county commissions. We do have some members who are on other commissions. I know Phil Langley is on the Ag and Seafood Board. You're still on that, right, Phil?
He's on mute.
Yes, Chris, I'm still on it.
And is Phil Dorsey still on the Ag and Seafood Board? Phil, do you know?
I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't hear.
Is Phil Dorsey still on the Ag and Seafood Board?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So he's obviously on our EDC too. Other connections, Phil Langley is on our Visit St. Mary's. That's our tourism board. That's another connection. We did have a connection with the Planning Commission with B.J. Hall, but he termed off, so we don't have a connection to the Planning Commission at this point. But just because we don't have a member on both doesn't mean that we can't connect.
I'm also on the Metcom board, but that doesn't really affect us very much.
No, that's still important to know.
What was Phil Langley's second board? What was it?
He's on the Visit St. Mary's board. That's the tourism. Yep. And I may be missing some other boards. I'm not sure. Some other connections. So are there any comments or questions about those 3 committees, subcommittees, or committees, I guess here?
Are you looking at the 3 committees as the preliminary stage of preparation? We're doing this, or are these the committees that would be going forward throughout the process? It appears to me that for example, the Document Review Committee, once you've reviewed it, what do you do with it then?
Yeah.
So are you foreseeing, these as preliminary committees, which will then be refined and perhaps focused a little bit more closely?
probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think these, I mean, first of all, I think these will happen, these committees will meet concurrently, you know, they're going to meet up together. And then I think when the document, I think there's going to be a time, obviously, we're going to have information from each committee, and they're going to suggest different things, so we need to come together as a full board and say, okay, here's what the document review committee came up with, what does the group want to do with this, you know, here's what the resilience committee came up with, does this relate back to this? I mean, there's going to be some connections between the work of those different committees, so we want to make sure we have meetings where we're connecting those things. We did ask you guys to complete a survey to see if you were, A, interested in serving on a committee, because there's no requirement for that. And if you were interested, what would be your preference? I don't think this went out, right, Kelly?
No, this is the first time they're seeing it.
Okay, so here we are. So reviewing the existing SEDS document, Gerald, Elizabeth, Teresa, and Phil Dorsey. Economic resilience, we have Tom Sanders, Laura Clark, John Barr, Tristan Marino, and Lisa Creason. And new initiatives, Barbara Ives, Rich Fleming, Ron Verbos, Phil Langley, and Mike Schroeder. So that worked out pretty well.
What this represents is everyone's first choice of a committee assignment, and then also we placed people who did not respond to the survey. So if you're placed on a committee and you did not respond, and you'd like to be placed on another committee, let us know. We don't want anyone serving on a committee that they'd rather serve on something else.
And I know previously Elizabeth, as the chair, said she'd like to join in on all three committees. I don't know if she still wants to do that, but that's certainly appropriate as the chair, so she can kind of hear what's going on from all committees. And of course, the staff will be there.
I would, yes.
Yeah, okay. So we'll put Elizabeth's name down for all of them.
Yeah, I would say anyone can attend any of the committee meetings.
Right.
I think the challenge is if some of the committees are meeting simultaneously, kind of where you're going to provide some continuity, if you know where you're assigned, but then also you're welcome to attend any of the other committees.
And we also have to worry about the quorum.
The quorum, correct, has to be under 8.
Yeah.
Usually it's not an issue that we have too many people. Usually it's the other issue, not enough people.
But you can see that the max on any one of the committees is 5. So, you know, in the event that 2 additional people show up, you know, like Chris said, we generally don't have a challenge having too many people.
And it'll all be reported back to the board, right?
Yep.
Anyway, the information.
Right.
Yep, and the meetings also will be, as far as I know, they'll be televised. We're going to get a final determination on that. So if you're not on a committee, you want to hear what's going on, you can watch it, watch it on TV.
So there will have to be, the meetings will have to take place in this space here.
That's what we think. We're kind of back. We got some different answers today, so we're going to nail that down and get back to everybody exactly what the rules are.
And Laura, I think for your benefit, the idea is for the subcommittees to meet and really dig into each of those topic areas and make recommendations to the full EDC. So, you know, before they would take no action, essentially, they would just do the work and then bring a recommendation back to the full EDC.
Okay.
Okay.
The other note I'll give you about members, Rich Fleming, of course, is the president of the Chamber of Commerce. He's going to be retiring from that position, I think, in June. I don't think he's on with us tonight. He's on the Visit St. Mary's board also, but there'll be a replacement. Whoever his replacement is at the Chamber, that person will be on our EDC board. And
I think he's already gone, because I saw his farewell.
No, he's still
said
here.
June.
He'll be here till the end of June.
yeah.
His farewell said June. Yeah.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, going down here, is committee chair, note-taker appointment. So we're asking for a chair for each.
Yes, part of the survey, we did ask if you'd be willing to serve as a chair or a note-taker. The only committee that we didn't have a volunteer to be a chair of that committee was new initiatives. So we should probably reach out maybe offline to see if someone would volunteer, or if somebody is on the phone now that wants to volunteer to be chair of new initiatives.
Who are the other volunteers for the other committees, Kelly?
Gerald and Elizabeth said that they would be willing to be chair.
Okay, so they can fight that out.
So they can duke that out. And economic resiliency, Lisa and Tristan both said that they would be willing to be chair and would be willing to be note taker. So I figured they can also duke that out if they want.
Okay. We can also, I mean, this is not super formal. We can have co-chairs too. We
Yeah.
can do something like that.
Yeah, and you could share the responsibility of chair
That might work
and
out well.
note taker if you wanted to.
Sure.
So new initiatives does not have a lead.
Correct.
I know we have Barbara on the phone, but I don't want to put any pressure on her.
Barbara.
You're not going to voluntold her.
No. Hearing nothing, we'll move on. And Phil's also on the phone. Is that good for that item then, Kelly? We covered that?
Can we
Yes.
get a copy of that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. For anyone didn't hear, Laura asked if you could get a copy of this, and we'll send it out to you.
Thank you.
So, I know the next item is open discussion, but I'm thinking maybe we go into item 7 next, which is the future SEDS work session dates. So I don't think we've talked too much about how frequently we want to meet. I think there was some back and forth discussion.
And that was part of the survey, too. I think the most popular answer was to meet once a month with the committees. A few people said as needed, which is awesome. 2 people said twice a month, but the majority of the responses were once a month
Okay.
with subcommittees.
If the meetings have to be here and have to be televised, we're going to have to work around the schedule. The room gets very busy, so we'll have to figure out when we can do that.
What is your current timeline, Chris, if you're looking at this, in terms of bringing a consultant on board and in terms of delivering a draft product, et cetera?
So it's due, I mean, the commissioners approved the SEDS document I think it was January of 2017. So I think somewhere in the spring of 2022 to have a final document would be great. No one's hard and fast about those deadlines, but that would be a goal. Consultant, assuming we get final approval by the commissioners, that money will be available second week of July. So it'll take a little bit of time to do an RFP. But we can have that, actually, we can have the RFP all ready to go and just kind of cut it right at, they don't really open anything up until the third week of July.
Yeah.
So that might take 5 weeks or so, maybe,
Yeah.
something like that. So probably the middle of August, we'll have the consultant on board. So we'll have,
Chris,
yeah, Elizabeth.
going back to the formats, what's the feasibility of the WebExes sort of all around for the subcommittees that we had initially discussed?
So that's where we kind of got some mixed information today. We're going to check back with the attorney's office tomorrow. The last thing we heard was that we need to be in person during COVID, but we'll check on that. I don't think we can be all virtual, but we need to really just double check, because we're getting some different answers. So I don't have a good answer for you today. I know the desire of the commission, and we'll see what we can do. I mean, I did talk to the county administrator. Her feeling was that, meetings need to be televised. Her point was that if we're televising your regular meetings, and your committee meetings should be televised just for transparency, because people who follow, I don't know that we have a big following, but people that follow the EDC will want to know what's going on with that too. And I think as we move into the strategic plan, the SEDS, there might be more interest from the public about what's going on, because we're actually working towards a plan. So we'll have to, we got a lot of different answers today that we need to sort out and make sure we're giving you good information. So we don't have an answer. Next day or two, we'll have a good answer for you.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll say the worst. One scenario is you were here in this room and we're televised. The other end of the spectrum is we're virtual. I don't think we're going to be all virtual, but we'll see. So monthly, is that what people want to do? Monthly is a good enough schedule? Okay. And again, we'll have to work out if we're in this room, so it kind of goes back to the question of what's required of us.
Did you ask the question of maybe doing it other than in the evening? If that was a possibility? If there was another time, I don't know that it is. I'm just asking the question. I work for myself. I could make that happen if I had
Laura,
to.
I think it's a good option, especially if we have to be in this room and we have to work around the schedule of this room. And I think it's probably going to go back out to the subcommittees and the chairs of each of those subcommittees and survey each one of those subcommittees to say, does it make more sense for you to meet from 10 to 11:30 on a Thursday?
It's once a month.
And
Yeah.
once a month instead of in the evening.
Yeah, if you've got 5 members and they're all available, during the day, and they prefer that, that's certainly doable.
That's fine.
From our perspective. If you have a couple people that are on base working or something and they can't break away, then
Right.
we won't be able to accommodate that.
One question I had, and that's the interaction between your staff and these committees. How will those committees interact? Will they have access to information? What is the best way of handling that?
So are you asking, we will participate in the committee work, so we'll attend all the meetings.
Okay, good.
Yeah, oh yeah, we'll definitely be there. Yep.
Right.
And we'll
So-
provide, you guys may ask us to perform some research or gather information and whatever. We're there at your disposal to help you make progress. So whatever you
Right.
need.
Okay. No, especially in the document review, you really need to look back and see what has been done. And there must be documentation in your office that describes what was done and
Yeah.
where it was left or why not or what happened to it.
Yeah, we've already gone through that and
Good.
we've got that, so. yeah,
Good, great.
Happy to provide that. Any other comments about the committee's structure? Anything from the group here or the group on the phone? I guess.
They're
open-
quiet.
I guess for open discussion. I guess that's just for any, and for our regular meetings, open discussion is for, we kind of go around the room and anybody wants to make any announcements that might relate to the group or be of interest to the group, you can do that. So start, you can call on people or speak yourself, Lisa.
I don't have anything to discuss.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I don't know that I do either. Somebody
Okay.
might jar my mind. I think Jerry had a few things he wanted to.
Well, I think those have been circulated, and I think that's fine for a moment.
Okay.
My only question was in terms of the resilience aspect of it. Last year, there was a discussion in terms of tourism. In terms of as soon as COVID starts to decline, we have to have a major process of telling people that St. Mary's County is open and to come to St. Mary's County. I know there have been changes in staff, etc. But so far, I am watching on television and elsewhere news from Calvert and from St. Charles County and some other of the counties, but we've not seen anything in terms of St. Mary's. Are there any plans in that regard?
We actually have done a lot. So, we've had an absence of the director for Visit St. Mary's. We actually made an offer to somebody today. But in the interim, JLL, our tourism consultant, and Kelly and our staff have been working, and Regina Fod and the board has been working very diligently to keep the program going. So Kelly, you can speak to some of the promotions and advertising you guys have been doing.
Yeah, generally speaking, you don't see tourism advertising in your local market. Their market is to get people from outside of the county to come into the county. So in a normal course of business, you wouldn't see any Visit St. Mary's advertising internally. This year, they did get some marketing money from the Maryland Office of Tourism Development to specifically advertise small businesses in market. And so Visit St. Mary's has been heavy on social media. They've done newspaper advertisements, and then the print paper, and then also the corresponding digital platform to all of those publications. So the outlets are different from what Calvert and Charles are doing, and I would probably say, as I'm working with Visit St. Mary's, that we're making a better choice on how those advertising dollars are being spent. So there is promotion out there. The other piece of it is it's still going outside of St. Mary's County to a limited extent. So we still want people from Calvert and Charles to come to St. Mary's County. So it's more of a Southern Maryland promotion than just a St. Mary's County promotion.
Right. And probably broader than that in terms, most tourism to St. Mary's County is probably generated from the I-95 corridor. So from Washington, D.C. and northern Virginia and, Baltimore and north from there.
Yeah, and along with that hometown marketing, Visit St. Mary's is still doing that out-of-market, drive market right now because of COVID. We know that visitation is going to come back, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. And so plans are in place to continue to roll out campaigns to that drive market.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
And I'll just say, we have been without a director for Visit St. Mary's Visit St. Mary's is a separate independent organization. I sit on the board. But I think we've been missing a director for, 7 months?
Yes.
7 months. But I don't think we've missed a beat. I mean, Kelly was a former tourism director, a JLL. I mean, they are national consultants in tourism, and our staff's been working hard. Mary Wagner's still there. So I don't think we've missed a beat not having nice to have a director, because these guys are getting tired of doing this as not part of their regular job. And I think there'll be a sigh of relief from Regina and Kelly, especially when we hire a new director. But we've really been in good hands.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have another comment?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, online, any comments? Phil Langley, do you have anything to add, anything to share with the group?
Yes, Chris, just to kind of piggyback on what you just said, and Kelly has done a great job. I know we've been without a director, but if the person accepts the offer, I think they're going to be a great asset to tourism. And I think that remote areas like St. Mary's County in the direction with COVID that things have kind of been redirected to. The remote areas have been kind of hot tickets where people have been targeting them. Vacation rentals, I think, despite COVID, have been up. And I think with restaurants opening, I think it's going to be a good year for tourism in Southern Maryland. And I think the opportunity where we're studying right now is a lot of opportunity for St. Mary's County in regards to tourism. So I'm going to throw a nautical term out there, so I would say tie, knot, and hang on in tourism in St. Mary's County. I think it's going to move.
Yeah, a good comment. There definitely is a pent-up demand there for people to travel and get out. Tristan, do you have any comments, anything to share with the group?
I have no comments to add today.
All right. How about Tom Sanders?
Nothing major I would just like to throw out there. I think the county has done a nice job, and I would like to thank the county for their job on handling getting the vaccines out. I don't know how we compare from a numbers standpoint, but I know from a manufacturing standpoint, the fact that we were added to, I think, Group 1C or something like that, that allowed us to keep our manufacturing going was good thing for us and for the other manufacturers down here. So I think you guys have done a good job.
Great, thank you. How about Barbara Ives? Anything to share?
Good evening. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening. I'd just like to share a couple things. The first is I'll just dovetail off what Tom was sharing about the vaccines. I'm very impressed at the way things are moving and the fact that the vaccine hub was at the fire station. That has been incredibly efficient and been able to meet all the numbers, so I have to commend everyone on that. Two, I'd like to share that that I'm so excited about the opening of McKay's in California, Maryland. That is a huge, huge to-do for our region, especially that region from those leaving the base to come home, wherever they might go north. That is a huge economic plus-up for our county.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. We were there for the ribbon cutting. I mean, to have a local grocer, I mean, someone who actually owns a grocery store live in your county is pretty rare these days. Obviously, there's national chains, and I think Tommy McKay was telling me that most grocery chains are actually owned by European companies these days. So there's a lot of competition. They're coming in. He does a great job. It's a beautiful store, probably the nicest store in all of St. Mary's County. And he really emphasizes local stuff as much as he can get. He's the largest purchaser at the Loveville Produce Auction. It's his store, and he has Amish cheese and different things. So. It's great. It's a great store. If you haven't been there, it's the old Shoppers. It's fantastic.
It's a great location.
Yeah.
Like
Nice.
Barbara said, people leaving the base, even for lunch,
Yeah.
it's just so convenient where it's located.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big success.
Anything else, Barbara?
And the last item I wanted to share was just wondering, Chris, if you can share with us what's going on the front side of the Regal Beagle, of the Regal movie theater. That I know Cheney has now pulled out all of this cement equipment, and it's all been plowed over. Can you share with us what's going on that corner, right there in 235 and that Wildwood Road intersection?
So I have to admit, I don't know exactly what's going in there. I heard maybe someone else on my staff knows. I heard there's a Royal Farms going in there, Royal Farms gas station, convenience store. And was there also a pad maybe for a fast food restaurant?
I think there is, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've not looked
I
at
think
that.
there's also apartments, and the only reason I say that is because I saw some information on a flight path for the airport.
Yeah.
And saying that the height of the apartment buildings were within the limits.
Okay.
So there must be some housing in that area as well.
They're also proposing some flex space.
Yeah, I think they're actually building some
so-
flex space. I think they have approval for 2 or 3 flex space buildings, pretty good size.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about the apartments, but the St. John's company owns all that property, and I think it's a planned unit development. Is that right, Laura? Do you know? It's a PUD?
It's an old planned development project,
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
It's good. I mean, the Cheney and the other, I think it's Aggregate, the asphalt company. There's 2. It looked like it was one company there, but it was actually 2. It was Cheney, which is using theirs, and next to it, close to the theater, was a company that Aggregate Asphalt or something, and their plant was defunct, and we met with them. Both of them. I mean, I think Commissioner Hewitt and others met with them and encouraged them. Here we have retail, doesn't look so good. Maybe go someplace. And Cheney was great. I mean, they built. I think they already had a site in the industrial park in Airport View. I think they built that site up and moved their operation there. And that's not cheap to do. That was a big expense. And Aggregate also mothballed and sold their property. So it's a good result for the county.
May I make one thing that I would like to just...
I have to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Barbara still on the line?
What did she say?
Yeah. Barbara, did you have another comment?
I was just going to finish up a little bit, if I can, Chris.
Well, Mr. Merriman had one comment on, I think, related. Let him speak first. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to come back to what we talked about the last time we met. The new house, the Soiree House at the end of Airedale Road, our neighbors, except for the oyster farm in between us, has now closed. So she is now living on the property. That's close the sale, not close the doors. He has closed the sale, and at 1.8 million. There's no secret; it's public knowledge. Yeah. And she is going to invest very heavily. She has hired local engineers and architects. Fantastic. She's planning an indoor swimming pool, Russian bias, and other facilities, including an organic garden. and hopes to be in business by spring of 2022 with a bed and breakfast, but focused on health and clean living. Not the kind of place I would go to, but no meat, no alcohol, and to bed by 9 and up by 4. So it is a health spa type arrangement, and she hopes to attract people from outside of the county, obviously.
Yeah.
And she has sold her house in Annapolis and is now a full-time resident.
Yeah.
And gung-ho and on the way.
Yeah.
So I think that is very important. Of course, the counterpart of that is that Sunset Cove is now closed, and understand that it is going through a sale and hopefully will open up again soon.
Yeah.
Because it is important in that whole area.
Yeah. Barbara, did you have another comment?
Thanks, Chris. I just have two. I'm just, I've been doing this innovation and new ideas, so I'm just sort of looking for information on that piece. And so that leads me to the Golden Corral that's been abandoned. And so just wondering what you've heard from the scuttlebutt, what's going to go on there. And then to follow that up, you're interested in the movie theater.
What was that comment about the movie theater? I didn't hear all that.
And also I'm interested in the movie theater that behind the old Cheney's location. I know the numbers are very low for attendance right now.
Yeah, I know there were some grants for movie theaters. I know they're hurting all around the country. I have not spoken to the owners of that. I mean, I think they actually may have called me and asked about grant opportunities, but I know they're all struggling. Mm-hmm. I think there's still an opportunity for movies, people to go to movies, but so many people are streaming things now. It's kind of like retail where people are, I think some things that were going to happen kind of slowly, the COVID's kind of made those happen more rapidly. So some of the retail that were probably going to go out within the next 5 years went out right away because things changed so rapidly. Movie theaters, I think, there's different models out there. I was in Florida last week, and there was a model for movie theater where I think you had your own pod, and it cost like $40 or $50 or something, but you had complete meals and you got served, and it was a whole separate thing. It was a different experience than just sitting in a theater. And some of those models have been a little bit more successful, I think. So I think there's still, you have those big action movies, people still want to go to the theaters, but it's going to be probably a tough industry moving forward, I'm guessing, but I don't know. But I've not spoken to the folks there. Golden Corral, I don't really know anything about that building. I have not heard anything.
I noticed the property next to it is for sale, and that might also change the mathematics in terms of Golden Corral, because if you recall, one of the reasons why they couldn't go anywhere is because they only could exit onto 245.
Right.
But if someone would bundle the two properties, well, that would alleviate that situation, of course.
I can ask our Land Use and Growth Management Department to see if they know what's going on with Golden Corral. Anything else, Barbara?
No, that's great. I have some ideas about what to do at Golden Corral that I think would be great for the community. So we'll just wait to see what their plans are for it. If they don't, we could maybe talk about that a little bit more.
Okay, great. Thank you. John Barr?
That's all. Thank you for the report.
Yeah. John Barr, any comments, anything to share?
Nothing from John Barr.
Okay. There's a couple other announcements that kind of jogged my memory as people were talking. One is that I think most of you know Pier 450 and the POV restaurant down in, it's Ridge, right? It's down there. Mm-hmm. That's a great, if you haven't been down there, go down and visit them. We went through the process to award them a property tax credit through our property tax credit program, and that's actually a program that our EDC sets what the target industries are, and typically they're manufacturing type industries or business industries, cybersecurity, aviation, and usually they're not retail or tourism related. But we did put a caveat in there that if it's a tourism industry tourism business that's in an area that we're seeking that type of investment, that they would also qualify. So Pier 450 qualified for it. The commissioners granted it, and we're just going through the paperwork now. So that's great for that establishment. Also, at the Planning Commission on Monday, they gave approval for a new hotel up by the Aldi, up in that area by St. John's. I think it's just south of the VFW on that side of the street. Avid Hotel is a national brand. I can't remember what group they're with. But they had a plan to do, actually, I think, 90,000 square feet. It was going to be one hotel. It was going to be, I think, a second building of apartments, maybe, and a little bit of retail. Through the course of the meeting, I think they read the tea leaves and thought they might not get approval, so they took everything off the table, all the other phases, except for just the straight hotel. So they got approval for the hotel. So that'll be a good investment. And then just another announcement is, you may have read in the paper, that the PNC Bank down on Great Mills Road, which PNC closed last year, they closed that branch. We had a meeting with them to talk about why they closed it. They cited that there wasn't enough, more people doing online banking was kind of their answer. But we were a little bit sad about them closing that. But through efforts from the Housing Authority and the NAACP and some others, they actually donated that building. So it got donated, and it's donated to, I believe, St. Mary's County Health Department, or no, the Housing Authority. Housing Authority was donated to for and I don't know exactly, it was in the paper. I saw a little bit about mental health.
Center.
Yeah, it's a kind of a health center. Right now, they're going to retrofit it and do some kind of health department things. There's a health department component in it.
Services.
Support services.
Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, it's right next to the Sheriff's Department down there. So, I mean, we were saddened that they closed it, but then they gave it to the community. I mean, it's a nice,
Wonderful.
it's a nice building, and they didn't ask for anything. For $1, they gave it to the community. So we're really happy for PNC to do that.
The reopening of the furniture stores in that same area are also a good indication of how the county can push,
Yes.
get things done. And
Yeah. Yeah, what's the name of that furniture? I can't remember the name of it.
New Ashley Furniture.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cool.
the other one is opening as well. I think there's two, right?
All right. Any other comments or questions before we adjourn?
This is Elizabeth. I would just like to take a moment to commend the absolutely outstanding job that St. Mary's County has done of distributing vaccines and getting shots in arms thus far. I think as of last time I checked, at roughly 18 to 20% of the county had received at least their first dose, and between 13 to 15% had received their second dose and were fully immunized. So I really want to give a proper credit where credit is due to the health department for heading that effort up, and all of the organizations that have been supporting it. Is an absolute job well done.
I agree. I mean, Dr. Brewster and her team have been fantastic. I got a vaccine. I got both vaccines. The super efficient process. I was in and out in 10 minutes or so. I mean, they just had it all figured out, and they do a great job. Great attitude. Dr. Brewster, I wish we could all be as positive as she is all the time. I mean, she just keeps going, so she's fantastic. And I apologize, Elizabeth. I forgot to ask you if you had anything to share with the group. I was trying to go from my memory for who was on the phone. Obviously, that shows you where my memory
No
is.
worries. No worries.
Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Other than that, nope.
Okay.
I'd like to say something about the health department.
Okay.
Their environmental health.
You speak into the mic. Yep.
The environmental health department also helped with the enforcement of COVID. I mean, they have been really overwhelmed with, and they're not equipped to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they stepped up to help that end of it. And I think we've done a great job in St. Mary's County.
Right.
I really do.
Yeah.
So,
Truly.
It's all good.
Well, then, if no one has any other comments, I'll call an adjournment of this meeting.
Second the motion.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, all in favor? I guess all of us are. Adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time, and we'll
Thanks.
get some information out to everybody.
Thank you.